strolled across the valley, headed towards the waterfall, cautiously looking around to avoid any monsters. He took a long time to inspect the area with the cave. If he had missed anything, it could have cost him his life. There was a chance that the cave was not stable, which would have caused it to collapse once Xavier entered it, or perhaps it was inhabited by a monster. There were a variety of monsters that loved dark caves near rivers, like the giant water bear, or the monstrous icy salmon snake, a serpent the size of 3 trucks that would lie where river and lake met, waiting for giant salmon. The snake would freeze the water around the fish before devouring it whole. Once it ate, it would rest in any nearby cavern it could find. After looking around for a while, Xavier could not see any salmon in the river, so he assumed that this was not something he had to worry about anytime soon. To his relief, there were also no other large things lurking in the water. No giant squids, no sea serpents, nor anything else. He made sure to check the waters once a day, just to be on the safe side. Perhaps it was quiet now, but he knew this could change quickly. Once inside the cave, he checked for footprints or marks of claws and hooves. Luckily, he could not find anything. Then, he spent the rest of the day getting rid of rocks and branches before setting up his camp. This did not take him too long. With all the rocks gone, the cave was a lot more spacious. It was big enough for Xavier to live comfortably inside, though it was somewhat chilly. Then again, Xavier preferred this over the scorching heat that plagued him on his trip to the town of beasts. He brushed the remaining dust and pebbles outside, then pulled out some camping supplies from his storage ring. First and foremost, a soft and warm bed. After setting up most essential items, he placed a big boulder at the entrance, so that only one person could pass through. He did not know how long he would stay here, so he had to make sure that it was as safe as possible. Near the big boulder, he stacked many smaller boulders so that he could lock the entrance when he was inside. He clapped the dust off his hands as this was done. Noticing how dark it was, he suddenly had an idea. Once more he went to check his storage ring and pulled out the 3 moonstones that he had taken from the treasure cave. He placed them on the wall with the help of some other supplies he had in his storage ring. Once they were mounted, the cave brightened up with soft, cold light. Xavier grinned with a pleased look on his face. Almost as comfortable as at home. As much as Xavier would have liked to take a nap in his cozy bed, he knew he was not staying here for a vacation. He sat on the bed and took on his training stance with closed eyes and folded hands. Slowly, the Q energy he had used up recovered, alongside some of his mental energy. The past few days really did a number on his energy. Though he was always physically fit, adventuring felt like a whole different level than working out in the village. More and more, Xavier understood what Lao meant by unlocking the whole potential in a life-or-death situation. Xavier was unsure why, but the rush of adrenaline made the training a lot more demanding, but also a whole lot more rewarding. Closing his eyes, Xavier used his inner vision to focus on the Q cyclone in his body. Steadily, it was growing. Throughout the past year of training, it went from being the size of a thumb to being the size of 2 fists. The color also changed slightly. It went from milky white to bright yellow. He felt that the concentration must have been 10 times as strong as it was a year ago. Once the Q energy was fully restored, Xavier opened his eyes. His strength was slowly becoming more. Perhaps in another month, he will reach the next Q star. Then he would be a level 6 young master. With the weight of the shoulders removed, he could take on the world. The only thing hindering him was his low Q method. Xavier felt bitter thinking about this. He had to find a heavenly flame to level his Q method up. But before he could consider searching for one, he needed to find the last few ingredients to refine the Blood Lotus Essence pill. Only with this pill will he be able to endure the heat of a heavenly flame. Xavier did not want to spend the day sulking about this. Instead, he wanted to focus on something nice for a change. This was why he grabbed a black scroll from his storage ring. Now I can finally focus some time on the Flying D technique. Soaring through the skies was many people's dreams. Xavier was one of those people. Especially as a kid, he wished he could grow wings and fly away to a faraway land where he would never struggle again. Thinking about it, he did manage to do so, though perhaps not in a literal way. Realizing this made him chuckle. Still, literally flying was a dream come true. Not only for roaming through the sky, but also for escaping dangerous situations. Something Xavier had clearly realized as he and the doctor were saved by the giant eagle. Xavier untied the string that was wrapped around the black scroll. Carefully, as if he was terrified of the old material falling apart, he rolled it open. 2 black eagle wings appeared before his eyes. They were painted onto the scroll and emitted some warmth. I feel as if this is more than just a drawing. There were purple clouds faintly drawn behind the wings. If examined closely, the wings looked like black steel, as if the drawing had an actual texture to it. They were also highly detailed. Beneath them were notes. Purple Cloud Black Fire Eagle. Man, what a name. It is a level 5 flying monster. According to legends, its ancestors were phoenixes from ancient times. It's the fastest of all flying beasts. Not only is it fast, but also cunning and cruel. This beast is almost impossible to capture, and only lives in the misty mountains north of the continent. Xavier swallowed. Reading that this beast was a level 5 monster made his heart skip a beat. This would be the monster equivalent of a battle spirit, so an entire level above She Master. Xavier continued to read the notes. The name of this D technique is Eagle Wings. More specifically, Purple Cloud Eagle Wings. It took me 3 years and a few friends to successfully capture this beast. Then, using a secret method to obtain both wings, we finally managed to create this scroll that allows one to learn this flying D technique. It took me towards the end of my life to manifest this D technique onto the scroll. Use it wisely. Remember, it can only be learned by one person. Xavier huffed. His mouth was open in astonishment. What a terrifying person the creator of such a D technique must have been. I wish I would have been able to meet him. Just the power to take down such a high-level beast, and then the power to create a D technique like that. It makes me wonder what other sorts of accomplishments this person must have had in their life. Quite remarkable indeed. The voice of an old man echoed from Xavier's ring. It was Lau. Though I have met more impressive people than that, and I am sure you will too. Xavier nodded, not adding his thoughts to it. Silently, he was hoping Lau was right. His fingers brushed over the drawn feathers on the scroll. Lost in thought, he furrowed his brows as he realized something. Again, Xavier brushed over the drawing. Why do the feathers feel so real? Xavier once more caressed the feathers with his fingers. Wait, is there a soul in this drawing? Due to his outstanding soul performance, he could sense a violent and brutal soul hiding deep within those drawn eagle wings. Unless, this is not a drawing, is it? Lau hummed, seemingly thinking for a moment. It looks like there is indeed a hidden soul in those wings, but a soul that lacks consciousness. A soul that lacks consciousness? What do you mean? Xavier had never heard of something like this before. Lau thought out loud. I believe this was caused by the secret method the author used to transfer the wings onto the scroll. Removing the beast's wings and the soul from the body before fusing them requires a tremendous effort. No wonder those D techniques are no longer passed down. The process of making such a difficult thing would be far more than most people could handle in one lifetime. Who cares about that? Xavier grew impatient. Can I learn it or not? There should be no negative effects, right? Please tell me that I can learn it. Lau laughed. Calm down. The soul that you felt was the one of the eagle, who once upon a time used those wings. Who knows how long it must have been? These wings could be ancient. After all these years, only the instincts of the beast are left. As long as you are cautious, there should be no problems. Xavier laughed loudly and bounced up with excitement. That's fantastic. I was terrified that the soul inside these wings would perhaps get control over me. But if you say it's fine, I'll trust you. I don't want to interrupt to destroy your good mood, but I'm afraid I have to. Hearing Lau speak up made Xavier freeze. He somehow figured that it won't be that easy, though he was hesitant to ask. He knew there was no way around it. I figured this was too good to be true. What is it that you need to tell me? Will these wings only work once I am a She Master? No, that is not it. It is a bit more complicated than that. You see, when practicing a technique like this, the soul of the monster, in this case the soul of the eagle, might attack the person who is practicing it. You need to endure the attack of the soul so you can tame the wings of the beast. Lau manifested himself and scratched his chin as he explained. It is a small price to pay when obtaining something powerful like this. Given your soul performance, you should not struggle too much. Since the soul of the beast is old and torn, it won't cause much harm. Xavier bit his lips. I'm not too bothered by this. I have come so far. I am sure it will be fine. Without a second thought, he pressed both of his palms onto the scroll, lightly pressing onto the wings. Immediately, he could feel a sting in his heart. The wild eagle soul roared out in it. The screech penetrated through the scroll and followed the Q pathways in Xavier's body. His hands trembled. The screech echoed through his heart and soul. He felt his stomach turn. This was the first time Xavier had felt an attack by a soul. His skin turned pale with terror. He underestimated how powerful an attack like this can feel. After all, the only attacks he knew were physical. This was completely different from anything he had ever experienced or expected. Concentrate. Shield your mind as you let the beast attack, Lau shouted, keeping his eyes on Xavier. Xavier swallowed. His body tensed up. It took him a moment to gather his breath. As the soul could sense that its screeching did nothing to stop Xavier, it elapsed into silence. Suddenly, a brutal presence abruptly forced its way through the scroll, burning itself into the depths of Xavier's mind. Keep your mind focused. Do not let it control your emotion, or you will transform into a beast that will only know how to kill. Xavier guarded his thoughts, not daring this brutal force to invade his mind. He could sense the soul hammering against his mind, as if it was trying to break through. Xavier used his inner vision to see it. His inner vision was blurry. As he noticed that there was not much to see, he stopped and focused more on keeping his breath and mind calm. This went on for about 10 minutes, before the soul of the eagle withdrew in defeat. Though Xavier's strength was far from being able to surpass a beast of this level, after being suppressed for hundreds if not thousands of years, the eagle was no match. As soon as it withdrew, Xavier's body collapsed. His muscles were aching. Exhaustion spread its way through his body. This was a lot more draining than a physical fight. I wish you would have told me that this beast's soul could have taken control over me before I tried to tame it. Lau apologetically waved his arms. I knew you would win, and I did not want to scare you more than I already did. But focus on the positive aspects. You now have all the necessary qualifications to learn this technique. This did put Xavier's mind at ease. Still breathing heavily, he laughed, placing both his hands on the eagle's wings. This time, there was no attack. Pursing his lips, he focused on the Q energy in his body, following the instructions on the scroll as it started to flow. A moment later, it made its way into Xavier's body through his palms. Suddenly, the eagle wings on the black scroll lit up in violet dark light. They shined brighter and brighter, before turning into 2 rays of clear purple light as they entered Xavier's body. There they followed the Q paths, forcing their way into 2 small new Q paths. These paths grew from the main path, and only stopped growing as they created an exit on Xavier's back. This sudden growth caught Xavier off guard. Ah! What is this damn monster doing now? He broke down on the bed. He bit his tongue so hard that a bit of blood ran down his mouth. The pain got worse and worse. A moment later, it became unbearable. Xavier lost consciousness. Once Xavier regained consciousness, the pain was still pulsating through his muscles, as if his body was being pricked with thousands of needles. As most of the dizziness left his head, he brushed over his storage ring to withdraw a small bottle. Tilting it slightly, he dropped a bit of some pink liquid into his mouth. This liquid had a numbing property. The prickling pain slowly disappeared. He sat up and stretched himself. How long was I knocked out? As he picked up the black scroll, he realized that all the words on it and the drawing of the eagle wings had vanished. He stared at the empty scroll, blinking a few times in confusion. Xavier then took off his shirt and took out a mirror from his storage ring. With the help of the reflecting light, he noticed that a pair of eagle wing tattoos had appeared on his back. Are these the eagle wings? Xavier was uncertain. It looked as if the Q energy that had forced an exit in his back had done so by creating a tattoo. It was black, but emitted a faint purple light. Xavier focused on his energy pathways. Using his inner vision, he focused on the Q energy, forcing it through his pathways into the new exit on his back. Finally, the tattoos formed a solid pair of wings. They expanded. and by the end were about a foot in length. Xavier curiously inspected the new wings. As he thought about moving them, they obeyed, creating a small lifting force under his body, yet far too weak to lift him off the ground. Lau giggled in the background. It was an amusing sight. "You look like a duckling. To use the wings, you need a large amount of Q combat energy. With your current strength and lack of practice, I'm afraid you will only be able to glide over a short distance. Don't be too disheartened. This could still be enough to save your life in an emergency." Xavier hastily nodded. He did not expect to be able to fly immediately, so he was not too disappointed. "Seeing that it at least works in theory is good enough for me. I'm sure I will get around to using them eventually." Xavier focused on his breath, retracting the wings by forcing his Q combat energy out of them. Once the pathway on his back was clear, the wings went back into his back, only leaving the tattoos behind. Once more he stretched his body. Then he put the empty black scroll back into his storage ring, only to pull out another ring. This one was very different. It was yellowish and looked very ancient. Since it was hidden in a skeleton instead of a treasure chest, it must have been a highly powerful technique. Xavier rubbed his hands excitedly before unrolling it. As he saw the inside of the scroll, he froze. His excitement was gone. "What is this?" On the scroll were many nonsensical lines, drawn without any form or order. Xavier traced the lines, but found nothing of interest that could have explained to him what any of them meant. "Is this a joke? If yes, it is in poor taste. Getting someone's hope up for nothing." He frowned as he stared at the scroll. Lau appeared next to him. He took a sharp look at the ancient parchment, knitted his eyebrows together and murmured, "It looks like some sort of ancient map, or a fragment of a map." "Fragment of a map? And here I was hoping it would be another D technique." Xavier's shoulders dropped. His interest in the ancient scroll became less. Lau did not appear to be as disappointed about this discovery as Xavier. He spread out the map on Xavier's desk in the cave, studying it carefully. His eyes stopped at the bottom corner of the paper. Suddenly, his face changed. There was a symbol, something that resembled a lotus, something he had seen before. He bent closer to inspect the symbol. The entire lotus was black. A thin black flame appeared behind it. Lau could sense a bad energy stemming from it. Seeing how invested and unsettled Lau appeared to be, Xavier straightened up. He had never seen Lau disturbed by anything. There was something that made Xavier feel uneasy too, seeing his master upset by something so trivial. "Master, have you found something of interest?" Lau hummed. "I believe this is related to the pure lotus demon flame." He did not look away from the scroll. Xavier was confused for a moment. "Pure lotus demon flame?" Suddenly, he had the hunch of an idea what Lau was so unsettled by. "Don't tell me. Is this a heavenly flame?" Lau nodded his head, as he could not believe this himself. "It is. Indeed, it is. The pure lotus demon flame is amongst the most mysterious flames of them all. It is ranked third on the heavenly flames ranking. It has the unique ability to cleanse or purify anything, hence its name. Any object within its vicinity would be cleansed into nothingness. This power is extremely frightening. Not to mention, it is exceedingly rare. I have only heard of 2 or 3 of these flames existing, but no one really knows where they are located. I don't even know who recorded their existence in the first place, since no one has ever seen such a flame and survived it. The only reason I could recognize it was because I found some rough notes about it when I was searching for a heavenly flame. I believe this map will lead you to a pure lotus demon flame." Xavier's interest suddenly spiked, only for it to die down again once he realized something. "But you said it is only a fragment, so we have no hopes of finding it." "Don't be ungrateful, brat. You can consider yourself truly lucky, as usual, that you even found this fragment. And even if you would find the flame today, with your current ability, all you would gain from this would be certain death. Let's take things slow, one step after the other step." Lau shook his head and smiled. "Even if you would successfully swallow the pure demon lotus flame, I would have no idea what level your flame mantra would evolve to." "Isn't the highest level it could reach the high titan level?" Xavier raised an eyebrow. Lau tilted his head vaguely. "This may not be the case. You need to remember that this is a huge world we live in. Once you reach a certain level, you will realize how big exactly. For your current level and status, it is better to stay grounded. Don't bite off what you can't chew, remember? The young master from a mercenary troop was enough to provide a challenge, and he was hardly an opponent worth mentioning. Get some rest today. We will continue training tomorrow. Lau did not have to mention this twice. Taming the wings had left Xavier deeply exhausted. The time he was unconscious did not provide him with much rest, only more headaches. He went to bed and woke up the next morning as sunrise rose over the valley. As he exited the cave, his heart jumped with joy upon seeing the vast valley in front of him. He jumped down from the entrance to the cave and ran through the field. Suddenly, he noticed something that made him halt. What is this? What Xavier was referring to were dozens of wooden poles that were affixed to the ground. About 7 feet above them were another 10 or so wooden logs that hung from tall branches, swaying within the fierce wind. Lau manifested himself near Xavier. He seemed a bit exhausted. With an apologetic smile, he looked at Xavier and explained, "Every morning, from now on, you will be training on those logs. I will manipulate the hanging logs above to attack you. Dodge all of them. Keep in mind, you are not to remove the heavy weight from your back. The heavy weight you referred to as a broadsword ruler. I think I will refer to it by this name as well. It does have a ring to it. Forgive my rambling. Anyway, on top of this, you are not allowed to use vacuum hand or air palm. Do you wish to give it a try?" Xavier was eager to do so. He felt confident. "Dodging is the only thing I know I am good at," he jokingly said. "Let's get started." Xavier stepped off the ground, shooting himself onto one of the wooden logs. He waved his hand at Lau. "Come, show me how tough this thing you have designed really is." "That attitude of yours will be the death of me." Lau laughed, though he sounded joyful as he said so. "Then let us test how many logs you can withstand." He waved his sleeve. Strong rushing energy came forth. Immediately, one of the 10 wooden logs came crashing down on Xavier. The pressure emitting from the falling log caused Xavier to take it more seriously. His eyes locked onto the approaching log. Suddenly, he bent over. The wooden log was close to his back as it flew past him, only a few inches away from his body. Before he had time to recover, the next log aimed at him. Xavier dodged the second log by jumping onto another wooden pole. He wanted to jump to another one, as he suddenly realized that his foot appeared to be stuck on it. This unexpected change mortified Xavier for a moment. However, his mental strength was not too bad. He manipulated some of the Q energy in his body towards his stuck leg. As he jumped up again, his foot was unstuck. He dodged 2 more logs that threatened to crush him. As he ended up jumping on another pole, he found both of his feet stuck to it. Another log came swinging at him, ruthlessly knocking him off and onto the grass below. Xavier groaned, rubbing his aching chest. "What the hell did you do to those poles?" "The wooden poles are covered with black glue. You need to use your Q energy to overcome the stickiness. Otherwise, you won't be able to get off in time and get knocked off. You must maintain your Q energy continuously if you want to dodge the poles above. I know it sounds like a lot, but it will be very rewarding." Lau had a smug smile as he explained. Xavier did his best to not curse him for it. Could refine quite a batch of pills for Xavier, which should last him for a while. The red recovery fruit usually grows in places with dense Q energy. This was not always a given, but it was better for Xavier to look for areas with dense Q energy than just run around blindly, hoping for the best. Relying on his great soul performance, Xavier could vaguely sense the surrounding energy abundance. His current path was headed towards a place where he could sense that the energy was increasing. Xavier decided to search for ingredients around noon. Noon was a time where monsters seldom roamed around. During his journey, his encounters with monsters stayed few. The 1 or 2 he occasionally ran into were quickly scared off as soon as he detected them, if walking around them sneakily did not work. He quickly moved through the bushes. Once he exited the bushes, he found himself in a small pile of rubble. Behind the rocks was a mountain, with green ivy creeping all over it. Xavier rubbed his hands. He could sense that the energy that was aggregated in this area was the densest in the entire region. Slowly, he was checking out the area, seeing if anyone or anything was watching him. As he could not find or sense anything, He turned to the ivy. There it was, a purple-colored sapling, hidden beneath the leaves. Green and red colors were interwoven on its fruits. They emitted a sweet, faint fragrance, like a mix of strawberries and cherries. Red recovery fruit! Xavier laughed in excitement. Finally! After searching for days, I have finally found it! Xavier looked around again. He knew that if there was a high amount of energy, there was most likely a monster guarding it nearby. He cautiously kept looking around, nothing in sight. After another brief silence, he headed for the fruits that were almost within reach. Suddenly, he could feel a chilliness overcome him. As the chilliness became too much, he stopped, furrowing his brows until, just as Xavier was about to run away, a huge white figure descended from the mountain wall where the ivy was growing, smashing onto the ground. It blocked off Xavier's path. Xavier's body froze. He felt very small in front of this beast. The monster's sudden appearance made Xavier's skin crawl. Cold sweat was running down his forehead. He swallowed. His mouth turned dry. He did not dare to make any sudden movements. The monster in front of him was a white monster ape. This monster ape was at least 20 feet tall, if not more. Its entire body was covered with snow-white fur. White fangs peeked through its sinister, huge mouth. A pair of blood-red eyes stared at Xavier, bloodlust written in them. Two blizzard monster ape? Xavier took in a sharp breath at the beast in front of him. The monster breathed heavily. Its red eyes focused on the human that dared to trespass in his territory. The huge fists it stemmed itself on left marks on the ground with each step it took. Eyeing the monster, Xavier did not know how to react. A monster of this level was equivalent to a human she-master. With his current strength, fighting him would have ended with Xavier's death. Master? Xavier called out, waiting for Lau's response, but there was nothing. Please quit messing with me, Master. This is a level 2 monster. How the fuck am I supposed to fight it? Xavier swallowed. His anxiety seemed to tighten his throat. He studied the monster's body carefully, looking for any weakness. He could not waste any time. There, on the abdomen of the monster, was a deep, deep slash. It almost ripped apart his abdomen. Whenever it moved its body, more blood came out of the wound. The surrounding fur turned scarlet red. From the appearance of the wound, it must have been caused by another monster. Xavier wondered what sort of monster had a claw that could leave such a huge scar on such a huge beast. The more sane and less curious part of him did not want to figure this out anytime soon. Despite the wound, Xavier knew he had no way of defeating this beast with his current strength. However, he did have an idea. He took the heavy weight off his back and smashed it into the ground. The magic beast, fearing an attack, charged at Xavier. Its red eyes pierced through him. The ape pounded its claws on its hard chest. As it got closer, the air around Xavier turned colder. Xavier stepped off the ground. Purple cloud wings, activate! A pair of eagle wings shot out of Xavier's back. This time, they were about 10 feet in length. The ape monster roared violently. It formed white energy into a ball. As it was released from the monster's giant hand, it aimed at Xavier. A month of agility training really had an effect on Xavier. He silently thanked Lau for it. Now he had enough agility to easily dodge the attack with monkey-like nimbleness. After evading the attack, Xavier aimed his palm at the sinister-looking wounded ape. He made sure to aim for the deep slash on his abdomen. Vacuum hand! Xavier's strength was enough to pull several pebbles towards his palm. It pulled on the monster, dragging it forward. As the monster stabilized its body, it flinched in pain. Lowering its head, it saw that blood ran out of his body like a stream from the open wound. It stomped towards Xavier, lust for revenge in its eyes. The beast had lost any sense of reasoning. Xavier dodged all of the ape's attacks. Once more he used Vacuum Hand to draw more fresh blood out of the ape's body. It aimed its fist upwards at Xavier. The pile of rocks was covered with blood. A puddle formed beneath them. Xavier continued to run and fly around the monster. After a while, he used Vacuum Hand again. This time the intestines of the beast flew out at a high speed, followed by some more blood. Being struck with this fatal blow, the monster tried to roar up, but with his lungs being shredded apart, was unable to do so. A few noises escaped its dying body, and it fell onto the ground. Xavier's exhausted body also fell onto the ground. He gasped for air. It took him a few minutes to recover some of his strength. Slowly, he stood up, eyeing the monster's dead body only a short distance away. A lingering fear was in his heart. The beast looked as if it could jump up again at any moment. Xavier shook those thoughts out of his head. Had he not risen to level 6, or had this monster not been severely injured, he would have had no chance. Lao manifested himself from the ring. On his wrinkly face, a proud and satisfied smile. "I can't believe you have truly killed a level 2 monster. Amazing." Xavier gave him an irritated look and did not reply. He gestured towards Lao, and Lao understood. Xavier took on his training pose and recovered some of the depleted Q energy. Lao made sure to guard the young man. Half an hour later, Xavier opened his eyes and stood up again. His body was feeling a little numb. "The energy here is quite dense. Can you sense it? My current Q method flame mantra is really shitty. I only had enough energy to support myself and my wings for 10 minutes. Had the monster not been injured, I would be the one on the ground with my intestines all over the place." Lao hummed. "It is really lousy. Even with its great potential, its starting point is very low. The stamina and endurance you have right now are too weak." "Thanks for stating the obvious," Xavier huffed. "When can I finally get a suitable heavenly flame to level the Q method up and store more Q energy? I'm sick and tired of being so weak." Xavier walked towards the small sapling at the wall. He plucked around 30 of the red recovery fruits. Then he placed them in a small bottle and put it into his storage ring. Once he gathered all of the red recovery fruits, he took out a dagger and went to the monster's corpse. Xavier laughed in triumph. "A monster heart! Finally, I'm getting some reward here." He ripped out the glowing crystal-like heart of the beast. It still felt cold to the touch due to the beast's ice attribute. It was of a much higher quality than the others he had found so far. He carefully stored it inside his storage ring. "Let's go before the blood lures in some more monsters. I don't think I can take on anything else right now." Xavier lifted the heavy weight and put it onto his back again before striding the way back to the valley. Suddenly, he heard something that made him stop. Immediately, he went to crouch between some bushes. He could hear some deep voices. "I think we should stop here. If we continue, we would enter the intersection of the mountain range. These monsters are not something we should be messing with. They could kill us with a single blow." The voice of a tall mercenary could be heard. Xavier could only make out a figure that seemed to belong to it. Luckily, they were still a few feet away, and did not look towards Xavier, who was holding his breath in the bushes. The mercenary's companion nodded in agreement, while cursing. "Where is that fucking brat hiding? The commander ordered us to take care of him and bring him dead or alive." The other mercenary shrugged. "Maybe some monster took care of him for us. Would make the job a whole lot easier." A deep laugh echoed through the forest. The other mercenary joined in. "Could be true. Looking at his age and experience, he can't make it too far in this cursed forest. Forget it. Let's end our search here today. We will report tomorrow and continue further. Too bad that brat is worth 8,000 gold coins. If we both would run into him, stopping him should not be difficult. We are both level 5 young masters after all." "Lucky for him. Let's go." The mercenary smiled. However, their smile immediately faded as he turned around. A fierce Q combat energy greeted him. The mercenary instinctively reached out a fist to clash heavily with the incoming fist aimed at him. The strength of the attack had exceeded his wildest expectations. After making contact, the mercenary's face turned deadly pale. He spit out a mouthful of blood as his body was flung away through the air. Kill him! Kill him!" The mercenary was about to land on the ground when suddenly a sucking force pulled him mid-air. He rushed towards Xavier. As he came closer, an elbow smashed into the mercenary's throat. The floating body of the mercenary fell to the ground. A dust cloud appeared where he fell. Between the start of the attack and the mercenary's death had been about 10 seconds. By the time the other mercenary regained his senses, his companion had already passed. Overwhelmed with shock, the mercenary that was left stared with widened eyes at the nearby figure, covered in a layer of blood. Who are you? Why did you attack us?
What? You just said you were looking for me.
Xavier raised his head. He looked neither sad nor happy. You are Xavier? The mercenary's pupils dilated with fear. He took a quick turn and ran. As he made for his escape, he fished out a signal beacon. Just as he was about to fire it, the sucking force behind him appeared again. The signal beacon flew out of his hands. Xavier caught it easily. He placed it inside his storage ring, thinking this might come in handy eventually. As he did so, he shot forwards at the mercenary. Panic got a hold of the mercenary. He stopped and unsheathed his sword, aiming at Xavier. Xavier dodged all the attacks with ease. He ferociously kicked at the mercenary. His foot landed on the lower abdomen of the tall, intimidating man. The mercenary groaned in pain. A line of blood ran down the corner of his mouth. He staggered a few steps backwards. Xavier snatched the sword out of his hand. With one quick movement, the sword was on the neck of the mercenary.
One move and I'll cut your throat.
The cold voice of the young man sent a chill down the mercenary's spine. If you kill me, the leader of the Wolfheads will never forgive you for what you've done. The mercenary swallowed. The cold metal on his throat made this difficult. Xavier laughed a little.
Forgive me? I don't think you or your comrade intended to forgive me earlier, did you?
Will you let me go once we've talked? A desperate glimmer of hope was in the mercenary's voice as he bargained for his life. He was not dead yet, though he could have been, which kept his hopes up.
You think you are in any position to ask me for anything?
Xavier pressed the sword closer to his throat.
I could make hundreds of cuts on your body and throw it in a nest of flesh-eating ants.
The mercenary's face was as white as a sheet of paper. What do you want to know?
Did Lang obtain anything from the stone chest in the cave? He did not have the key, right?
Commander Lang moved the stone chest and the table out of the cave. I do not have enough authority to know what was inside it. Cold sweat ran down the mercenary's face as he spoke. Xavier raised an eyebrow. He seemed to be truthful.
How much bounty is on my head?
The mercenary swallowed. The commander said that whoever reports any traces of you will be rewarded highly. If we would bring you to him, we would have gotten 8,000 golden coins. Xavier huffed and laughed.
They really are persistent. One last question. Did anything happen to the fairy doctor?
No. After returning to the town, the fairy doctor has not left the medicine palace. No one dares to make a move against them. The mercenary stealthily slipped out a dagger from his sleeve. Xavier raised his eyebrows.
Looks like you did not intend to give up on the 8,000 gold coins either, did you?
With a swift motion, he cut the mercenary's throat. Blood gushed from the wound. Only seconds later, his body fell forwards to the ground. Xavier let out a cold sneer. He knew he could not have afforded to let the mercenary go back. But the mercenary knew this as well. That was how this business works. Only a fool would let one go in such a situation. Mercenaries that were dumb enough to make such a beginner's mistake were not in business for long.
Looks like the commander of the Wolfheads is not one to let things slip. Not that this is unexpected.
Xavier cleaned up some of the mess he left behind. He did not need the mercenaries to find any traces of this fight. Once this was done, he dragged the bodies to a nearby cliff and threw them down into the abyss.
Master, I believe we need to tighten our training schedule. In only a month they have come so far. Perhaps in a few more days they will find the valley.
Xavier's mouth twitched. He knew from the beginning that he will have to leave eventually, but he pushed this concern far in the back of his mind. He grew to like the valley. Lau nodded solemnly. Indeed, we need to take care of that. Xavier let out a deep breath. Suddenly, he remembered something else.
Master, when are you going to teach me the diamond level D technique? You promised you would teach it to me. I need more ways to keep up in a fight.
Lau burst into laughter. I suppose you have not bothered me about this damn D technique in at least 5 minutes. Very well, I will teach you, but you need to be prepared for a world of pain. A handful of people were seated in the large
时间的流逝过于快速
hall. The atmosphere was dense, heavy. Some people were murmuring. Amongst the people present was Lang.
who still held a grudge against Xavier. On the throne of the leader sat a middle-aged man with a grim expression. His fingers tapped lightly on the table in front of him. Everyone paid attention to him and stopped the murmuring as he spoke up.
I have received news that a team of 2 men went missing in the middle of the Shenqi mountain range, the mountain range of monsters.
Lang was unbothered as he heard this. Father, don't you think they have been attacked by a monster? This happens a lot there. It would be the obvious answer as to why they disappeared. The middle-aged man, whose name was Wrong, was the leader of the Wolfheads. He was experienced in this business, experienced enough to know which man he had lost to a beast, and which one he had lost to another man. He shook his head at his son's careless reply.
If they had clashed with a monster, there would have been traces of a fight. We could not find anything like this. If we eliminate the possibility of them falling off a cliff, something only a beginner would do, then there is only one possibility left. They were killed by someone else. Both of those men have been highly capable. I cannot imagine them falling off a cliff or running into a trap that was set out by a monster hunter.
Are you implying that this was Xavier's doing? Lang shook his head in disbelief. I fought with that guy. There's no way he would be able to kill 2 level 5 young masters with his current strength. And this before they had the chance to raise an alert. It sounds impossible.
I did not imply this. In the end, it does not matter to me if it was some brat or someone else. Tomorrow, we will send another troop to carefully search through the area for any trace.
Wrong was cautious enough to not leave any loose ends, something he had hoped to pass down to his son. However, seeing Lang's careless attitude right now did make him question this. Lang waved his hand. If you say so.
I do say so. On a different note, have you managed to open the box that you carried back from the cave?
Wrong sounded displeased. Lang pretended to not notice the displeasure in his father's voice. Xavier has the key to the chest. I have hired the best locksmith in the entire city, but from the looks of it, this might be more difficult than we expected.
Wrong hummed. If we cannot open the lock, then we have to try it with force. Whoever left it there was immensely powerful. We have found more than 700,000 gold coins, and some rare alchemy ingredients that were deemed extinct. Whatever is in this box should be something of equal interest.
Lang nodded. He understood clearly. Father, what do you intend to do about that little fairy doctor?
Do you know what she obtained from the cave?
Seeing how Lang shook his head, Wrong narrowed his eyes and waved it off.
Then we cannot do anything about her right now. Her reputation in the city is too good. If we make any rash moves, we might stir more trouble than she is worth.
So we are just going to allow her to live safe and sound at the Medicine Palace? Through the hall echoed Wrong's hoarse laugh.
Safe and sound? We will make sure it will be impossible for her to stay safe and sound. Get someone to spread a rumor. Tell everyone that the fairy doctor had obtained an ancient relic. Tell them the relic is of high interest. Something like a diamond Q method. There are a lot of greedy people with bad intentions in a city full of mercenaries. She can't defend herself against any of them. Whatever they decide to do against her is something she can worry about.
Lang's eyes sparkled up. This is brilliant. Hell, perhaps even the Medicine Palace would get interested in such a relic. Once she loses her position there, it will be easy to catch her. Wrong nodded his head. He was glad his son understood.
I would not put too much effort into catching her. She is neither much of a threat nor of much worth. What I would focus on right now is the boy you spoke of, Xavier. What worries me about him is that he seemed very composed and cold. Someone around his age should not spend so much effort into hiding his true strength. Had it not been for the life and death situation at the last minute, it would have been likely that none of you would have guessed that he could push all of you back with only one attack.
A chilly spark flashed through his eyes.
An enemy with such potential needs to be eliminated before he has the chance of developing his talent further. We need to get rid of him. If he returns to seek revenge in the future, he could deal quite a lot of damage to our company.
Lang was not a fool. He knew his father was right. The fight he had with Xavier in the cave caused him many sleepless nights. Tomorrow I will double the number of the search party, and the monetary reward will be tripled. I will make sure we can catch that guy this week. Xavier did not know about any of this. although he did suspect something was up after the attack the other day. Right now, Xavier was standing beside the lake under the waterfall. There he stared at the 10 wooden stakes. On his face was a bitter expression.
Master, you don't intend for me to go and train again.
What do you imagine, brat? I have told you before that a Diamond Level D technique is not the same as any XX Level D technique, or as any Hunter Level D technique. If you wish to learn something of this level, you need to achieve certain requirements first. They are essential to your training. Lao shrugged. Now hand me the heavy broadsword ruler. Xavier did as Lao told him to do. As he handed Lao the broadsword, he took it with ease. It did not seem to cost the old man any strength at all as he balanced it on one hand, swinging it from left to right. Have you ever seen a Diamond Level D technique? Do you wish to see one? Xavier's eyes brightened. Hastily, he nodded. He was eager to finally develop further. After the last fight in the forest, he grew a lot more worried. Lao held the heavy item as he slowly ascended into the air. He stopped as he was floating above the middle of the lake. He looked down. There were about 30 feet between him and the lake. Lao turned towards the silvery, gigantic waterfall. With a deep breath, the calm surface beneath the lake began to bubble, as if it had started to boil. The bubbles spread more and more. Eventually, they covered the entire surface of the lake. Xavier was shocked. A mix of admiration and fear was on his face. He once more was reminded of Lao's strength. Silently, he wondered if he would be able to achieve such a level of strength at some point in his life.
This is terrifying.
Lao lifted the broadsword higher up. On the surface, the numerous lines suddenly emitted a fiery red light. The surrounding air became hot, causing it to look blurry. Lao tightly grabbed the broadsword as it turned completely red. He let out a cry and moved his body. He took a jump mid-air, and a blurry afterimage appeared under the light of the setting sun. Suddenly, Lao was at a spot more than 10 feet away. He moved with such speed, it looked as if he had teleported. Directly in front of the waterfall, Lao looked like a small ant. The intense wind pressure that the waterfall produced did nothing to Lao. His feet stepped on the empty air, and he spun 180 degrees around. The light that grew from the heavy broadsword grew brighter and brighter. Moments later, it was so bright that Xavier was forced to shield his eyes. Diamond D technique, flame-splitting tsunami. Throughout the valley, an explosion was to be heard. This was quickly followed by a turbulent wave of heat that shattered through it. Numerous water pillars sprung from the surface of the wide lake, a spectacular sight. Between those pillars, the red light flashed brightly. The spots where the red light passed through the water pillars immediately vaporized into a cloud of mist. The red light suddenly shot across the surface of the lake. There it created a tsunami that was at least 30 feet high. Finally, it smashed heavily into the galloping waterfall. Countless rocks broke off the cliff wall. The force caused the valley to shake. Xavier had to cover his ears. He swallowed. A moment later, he took a look at the place where the waterfall was. A thick fog blocked his sight. Ferocious wind blew from the surface of the lake, scattering the fog across the valley. It took a moment for the fog to disappear, revealing the huge waterfall again. As the waterfall became visible again, it looked as if it was stopped. Behind it, Xavier could see the rocks in the wall that was usually concealed by the water. The waterfall stopped for a good 30 seconds before it slowly began to flow again. At first, only a few smaller streams ran down. Eventually, the waterfall began to flow in the same manner it did before, acting as if nothing had happened. This is the strength of a Diamond D technique. It is called flame-splitting tsunami. When mastered, it can cut easily through mountains and break waves. The simple description gave Xavier huge happiness. Lao seemed unbothered. He smashed the broadsword back into the ground and raised his chin as he looked at the wooden logs under the waterfall. From today on, you will need to withstand the flow of the waterfall as you train. Once you can hold your ground on the 10th log and cut against the water flow 300 times, you will have reached the next step of your training. But remember, with your current strength, you can only use the flame-splitting tsunami once. Do not carelessly use it, unless it is a crucial moment. Xavier stared at the bottom of the waterfall. The loud noise alone was enough to make his skin crawl.
With such a strong force, without the protection of the Q energy, one would be knocked out instantly, or not?
Lau shrugged. Maybe. Keep in mind that you need to carry your broadsword with you during your training. When you want to use the flame-splitting tsunami, you must rely on it. Without it, this Diamond D technique will only have about 30% of its strength. Additionally, I took all of your energy recovery pills. For this sort of training, they are not required. Besides, you are getting too dependent on pills. That is no good.
I don't care. I will keep going. I will fight for this Diamond D technique.
Xavier clenched his jaw and stripped off his clothes as he jumped onto a huge rock. From there, he leapt to the first wooden log. Immediately, the huge force of the waterfall knocked Xavier down, before he could make use of his Q energy to protect himself against it. This did nothing to slow Xavier down. He tried it again, only to be forced down again, and again, and again, and again. Seated on a huge boulder by the lakeside, Lau was chuckling as he kept observing the stubborn young man. He subtly shook his head. The sound of the waterfall echoed through the valley. Day after day, year after year. The water vapor made it seem as if the valley was completely isolated from the huge world outside. The surging waterfall appeared like a silver dragon, rushing down the cliff. Under this silver dragon was Xavier, clenching his jaw with a bared torso. He firmly held on to the heavy broadsword ruler in his hands, hacking at the current in front of him. Every chop sent water flying high into the air. Xavier's legs were like the roots of a strong oak. He was seemingly glued to the wooden poles he was standing on. His body was gleaming with a faint yellow Q combat energy. Every time water flowed onto his body, a light yellow mist vaporized off him and soared upwards. A monumental strength was needed for Xavier to chop into the waterfall with the broadsword ruler. Every swing caused the muscles of Xavier's arm to send a signal of pain through his body. With gritted teeth, Xavier grew weaker and weaker. Suddenly, in the middle of a hit, the waterfall pushed Xavier off the wooden poles. As he emerged from the surface of the lake, he spit out a mouthful of water. He shook his dizzy head before swimming towards the shore. Once he dragged his weary body out of the water, he collapsed on the ground with heavy breathing. His muscles were aching. He did not want to make a single unnecessary move to cause the pain to get worse. Here, have some of this. The scent of something baked hit Xavier's nose. As he opened his eyes, Lau was waving a freshly baked fish in front of his nose. Moving his body with great difficulty, Xavier sat himself up, leaning against the giant rock before taking the baked fish. Thank you. Greedily, Xavier gorged on the food. Maybe he only thought so because of how hungry he was, but it tasted delicious. Lau smiled. You are doing really good. In only 5 days you have come a long way. I did not expect you to endure for so long. Xavier mumbled something with a mouthful of fish. Recently, mercenaries have appeared more and more frequently around this place. Lau sat next to Xavier, who upon hearing this almost choked on the fish. Judging by their speed, I am afraid they will find this valley in another month at most. We need to increase your training speed. Xavier swallowed down the fish in his mouth. Increase my training speed? My current speed is already too high. It would be impossible to increase it even further. Lau tilted his head. There is a way to increase your training speed, though it will demand a lot of you, and you will be in great pain. Xavier laughed bitterly. As if I am not in great pain already? Lau chuckled. With a smile, he took Xavier's storage ring to remove about 10 small bottles from within. They were filled with a type of red liquid. Xavier knitted his brows together. What is this? Burning blood. Lau answered as he slightly shook one of the bottles. I refined this by using 23 different types of ingredients with fire attribute, and the blood of 3 different monsters that were on level 2. If you would compare its quality to a pill, it would be a pill on level 4. Level 4? That is incredible. Xavier forgot about his aching muscles and made a move towards the bottles. Instantly, his body reminded him of its state, and he groaned out in pain. Damn it, I need a break. What is the effect of burning blood? Burning blood can only be used by a person with a fire attribute. Someone like you lucky brat. To a person with a water attribute, it would be poison. When it is spread onto someone's body, it will increase the consumption of the Q energy, and speed up the recovery of energy as well. If you continuously use it, your training speed will increase greatly, though unfortunately, Lau broke off mid-sentence, making Xavier worry. Well, there will be a price you have to pay.
Let me guess, more suffering?
Xavier sighed. He figured as much. Lau did not answer. Give me your hand. Xavier obeyed and stretched out his hand. Lau pulled on his arm, slightly tilting the bottle over it. Xavier sucked in a breath of cold air. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He clenched his teeth together. The drop of red liquid was like a ball of flame. The temperature of the liquid was scorching hot, and it did not appear to cool down. Xavier wanted to pull his arm back, but Lau held him tightly.
Shit! As I said more suffering, I didn't mean literal torture.
Lau seemed to enjoy this a bit too much for Xavier's liking. He smugly smiled at the young man's reaction. The veins on Xavier's arm became more pronounced. Lau picked up something next to him and used it to spread the drop of burning blood across his arm. Xavier felt as if he was forced to put his arm into a bucket full of burning coal. Faint steam continued to evaporate off Xavier's arm. The whole procedure lasted for about 10 minutes before the burning sensation stopped. Xavier stared at the small bottle with red liquid near him. He looked terrified.
This liquid is too much, and I'm supposed to cover my entire body with it? Are you insane?
Lau did not answer. Calm your mind and prepare yourself. Focus on the Q energy flowing through your body. Can you sense any changes? Xavier sighed and closed his eyes. Using his inner vision, he focused on the Q paths on his arm. After looking around, he did notice a change. The Q combat energy in his arm was a lot thicker than before. It appeared to be a lot stronger. Xavier opened his eyes. His jaw dropped. He looked at Lau and grinned.
All right, old man, let's give it a go.
Hearing Xavier change his mind so quickly made Lau laugh. I figured the benefits will be too enticing for you to ignore. Lie on your stomach. From now on, we will spread it over your entire body once a day. Your training speed should increase by about 30 to 40%.
Bring it on.
Xavier bit onto a piece of his clothing that was scattered on the ground. As the red liquid flew onto his body, a muffled scream echoed through the valley. Meanwhile, the search that the Wolfheads Company started continued. Their search grew in size and importance. They lost 10 men before they managed to get closer to the valley where Xavier was training. A month later, one of their members stumbled into the valley. The mercenary stared blankly at the young shirtless man that was training under the waterfall. He regained his wits as a cold wind blew into his face. Without wasting time, he retrieved the signal beacon from his pants. But as he was about to send a signal, an intense wind came forth, attacking him from the front. The mercenary, a level 6 young master, shivered. He tried to turn around and flee. A black shadow broke through the air and smashed into the ground in front of the mercenary. He stared at the strange black object. This unique weapon had become a symbol for the young man they placed a bounty on. The mercenary did not waste any time. He spun around and rushed away, fleeing for his life. Just as he was about to reach the forest, he sensed something and threw himself onto the ground. Just in time, as it turned out. Not even a second later, a violent gust of Q combat energy sliced through the space above his head, before hitting a tree in front of him. At the spot where the Q combat energy hit the tree, a large crack appeared. Following this, the tree split apart in the middle. The mercenary struggled to calm his breath. His heart was racing. What sort of demon? The mercenary, too scared to stand up, crawled as fast as he could into the forest. He used his special D technique, Crawling Lizard, to enhance his speed by more than twice the normal speed someone could crawl. This D technique had helped him to escape many times before. As he was about to celebrate his survival, and think of all the ways he would waste the reward money in his local tavern, making sure to pay back that pretty woman that scorned him, a pair of feet abruptly appeared on the path in front of him. He looked upwards, only to be met with the young man. On his face was a terrifying smile. "You can crawl very fast." In his dark eyes was bloodlust. The mercenary shivered. With a swift motion, the black broadsword ruler came crashing downwards. A scream echoed through the forest, but it was silenced within 2 seconds. Xavier looked at the corpse in front of him. Indifference was on his face as he licked his lips.
Serves them right. If they hadn't hunted after me, none of this would have been necessary. What a bunch of bastards. But if they want to kill me so badly, good. From today onwards, every member of the Wolfheads that dares to step into the mountain range will be exterminated like the cockroaches they are. I will get my vengeance.
At first glance, the dense forest looked quiet and serene. Birds were singing, insects were humming, and the sun was shining on a blue sky above the green trees. But this calm and peaceful atmosphere did not last. It was interrupted by a man with terror on his face that ran through the thicket, scaring all the birds away. Ignoring the disruption he was causing, the man scurried further and further into the woods. He was looking for the pathway that led him here. His terrified face would look back every now and then as if he was hunted by a terrifying monster. After running for a while, the man in mercenary clothing lifted his head and stared at the light only a short distance away. Once he escaped this forsaken forest, he would be able to call upon his companions for help. Then he would no longer need to fear the demon that was after his life. Suddenly, the mercenary's body charged forwards. He jumped and landed on a tree branch. He leapt towards the light. On his face was a relieved, wide smile. Not much longer, and he would be out of the thicket. Suddenly, his happy smile vanished. His body was abruptly pulled backwards by some suction force. Shock spread through him. What the hell? A figure dressed in black flashed past him. The sound of wind followed the figure. The mercenary shut his eyes in pain. His chest sunk inwards. The enormous body of the mercenary fell and crashed onto the ground. Blood violently spurted all over the soil, drenching it red. His terrified wide eyes stared at the human figure dressed in black that was standing on a tree branch above him. The mercenary's eyes rolled into his head, and one last breath left his body. The human figure dressed in black did not seem too bothered. Those idiots are never getting it, are they? This was the 11th man I had to take care of. Of course, the human figure dressed in black was Xavier, who had left his training area. Once he left the training area, he ran into more than 10 mercenaries from the Wolfheads. They had been looking for him throughout the past 2 days. Xavier showed those people who intended to use him to gain reward money no mercy. After all, they would not show him any mercy either. Almost all the members who were below level 8 of being a young master were eliminated by him. With Xavier's current strength level, it was easy for him to take care of a young master on level 7 if he were to remove the heavy broadsword ruler on his back. As long as the opponent did not possess a D technique that would have been a challenge to him. But a person with a comparable D technique to Xavier's could not be found in the entire Wolfhead's company. Just yesterday, Xavier was able to gather some information on the internal structure of the Wolfhead company. One of the mercenaries told him everything, desperately hoping it would save his life. He told Xavier that the strongest member of the Wolfheads was the level 2 Master Wrong. He was their leader. Under him were a level 9 and a level 8 young master, forming the upper ranks. Other than the 3 of them, the Wolfheads did not have any members that would have been able to prove a challenge to Xavier. Making sure the lifeless body did not move anymore, Xavier stepped off the tree. Young Master Lang, I want to see how many of your mercenaries I'll have to kill for you to take the hint. Meanwhile, in a spacious, well-lit hall, Wrong received the news. That fucking bastard. Can't they get rid of him already? Wrong kicked against the table in his rage. The table shattered as it flew across the room and crashed into the wall. Seeing their leader's fury, all the subordinates were silent. None of them dared to say a word or make a move. In 2 days, we have lost 15 men. If this continues any longer, will there be anyone left in my company? Wrong's voice was hoarse. The others were at a loss for words. All they could do was exchange worried looks. I know it was this brat who did this. Xavier, how did this bloody demon kill 3 level 7 young masters on his own? Wrong smashed his fist on another wooden table that was near him. Lang smiled bitterly as he watched his father. 3 months ago, that guy was not stronger than me, even after revealing his hidden strength. Otherwise, there would have been no fight at all in that cave. The strength he is now displaying is at least comparable to a level 7 young master, perhaps even level 8. Wrong's face was full of hatred. Chilliness was in the air as he spoke. How could someone gain so much strength after staying in the mountain range for only a few months? What sort of witchcraft is he performing? It looks like we were right. This guy, he is no normal kid. Wrong sat down on his chair. tapping his fingers against the wooden armrest. "We will temporarily withdraw our men from the mountain range. In a few days, we will divide our forces into 5-man teams armed with signals that will indicate their positions. They will enter the mountain range together. I want to surround him so that he has no way to escape left." The other men saluted him. "Yes, sir." "Very well, then." Some of Wrong's fury seemed to have left him. "Where is Hang? Why isn't he present?" Wrong lowered his head, his eyes sweeping across the hall. His subordinates froze, exchanging concerned looks. One of them swallowed audibly and said, I heard that the 3rd Company leader had brought a few colleagues to accompany Madame Yin from the Blue Flowers Hotel into the mountain range to hunt for snow foxes." Wrong huffed. "What an idiot. All he thinks about is women. Doesn't he know of the current predicament we are in? This damned idiot. Sooner or later he will die by the hands of a woman." "Master Wrong, he is a level 8 young master. If he would run into Xavier, he might be able to kill him along the way." One of the subordinates tried to ease Wrong's mind. It seemed to work. Wrong chuckled lightly, shaking his head. "He is a brilliant man. I would like to have him back alive. I hope you are right with what you're saying." For some reason, he did not believe so. But Hang was different from the ordinary mercenaries. Should he die, it would be a severe blow to the Wolfheads. Men like him were hard to come by. "Tell him to look for me once he returns. I would like to speak with him." Meanwhile, far away in the mountain range, near the hidden valley, Xavier chewed on a leaf as he was sitting on a tree branch under the trees. A large tent was set up near him. Next to it, a small fireplace, providing some additional light during this dark night. The leaf had a faint bitter taste to it. He had a good view of the campsite close to him. There were around 15 mercenaries. Most of them must have been level 5 young masters. Within the tent in the middle of the campsite was one level 8 young master. He was Xavier's target, the 3rd Company leader of the Wolfheads, Hang. With Xavier's current strength, he had a good chance in a one-on-one fight with the level 8 young master. However, this was only the case if his comrades would not assist him. Judging by the looks of it, he needed to find a way to get rid of the other mercenaries before he could take their leader in a fight. Xavier decided to wait and hope an opportunity for him to attack would arise. He was sitting in the tree for a while. Cold wind blew across the forest, causing the trees to rustle. Xavier smiled subtly, feeling the wind on his face. With a flick of his fingers, a small bag of powder appeared in his hand. This powder was given to him by the fairy doctor before they had parted. It would cause anyone to fall asleep. Xavier decided to make use of it. He was about to throw the bag into the camp when he noticed 2 mercenaries were slowly heading towards him. His body tensed up. Did they see me? Xavier leaned back, hiding deeper in the shadow of the trees as he stared at the 2 men. He braced himself for an attack. Just as the 2 men arrived at the tree atop which Xavier was located, they stopped. They took a quick look around and pulled down their pants before peeing into the bushes. "Damn, that bitch is hot, isn't she? Her big ass makes me want to throw her to the ground and fuck her." One of the mercenaries vented to his colleague. "You should lower your voice. Hang is interested in her too. If he would hear about this, he would throw you to feed the wolves." The first mercenary laughed it off. "Oh please, she's a slut anyway. I have seen her getting fucked by someone that was not Hang the last time. But you don't hear her tell Hang anything about this." The other mercenary shook his head and turned around. "Don't do something dumb like hitting on her, or talking shit about Hang's girl. If anyone would hear you talk like that, we are the ones getting into trouble. Let's go back." Before he could take a step forward, a black figure flashed past him. The mercenary had no time to react, as a terrible pain shot through his throat. The first mercenary was also about to turn around, when he noticed that his colleague was gone. How did he leave so quickly? Before he got an answer to his question, pain shot through his body, and everything turned black. Xavier dragged the 2 corpses of the mercenaries into the dense forest before climbing up on top of the tree again. He scanned the campsite from above. Then he scattered the contents of the small bag through the air. The wind did the rest of the work for him. Like snow, the powder flew over the campsite. One by one, the mercenaries collapsed. In only a minute, the entire campsite was silent. Xavier stared at them for a moment, making sure none of them would withstand the powder and stand up again.
The doctor told him that it should be strong enough to cause someone to sleep for half a day. Xavier was hoping she was not exaggerating the powder's effect. Knowing her, she was most likely sincere. After nobody seemed to move, Xavier jumped down the tree. Carefully, he walked through the campsite. He reached for the next best sword he could find from one of the mercenaries. With it, Xavier passed through a few empty tents. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the largest tent in the middle of the campsite. Inside it was dim light. The shadows of two tangled bodies were seen on the wall of the tent. Xavier could hear groaning coming from inside. He lowered his head, looking at the soft woman beneath him. A lewd smile appeared on his lips as he reached for her breasts, kneading them like dough.
中国信托 Uni Open 联名
beneath him arched her back. Her moan, Hang sped up. A moment later, both of them stopped. Their stiffened bodies relaxed. Hang was shaking. Fortunately for him, he was experienced as a mercenary, and it did not take him long to sense the oncoming danger. He reached for a blanket, throwing it behind him. The blanket was immediately cut apart as someone shot into the tent. This sudden assault made Hang's face change drastically. He awkwardly rolled on the bed, avoiding the edge of the blade so near his throat. The woman on the bed screamed at the figure that barged in. Xavier used vacuum hand to grab a piece of charcoal, shooting it into the woman's mouth to make her shut up. Hang was furious. "Who do you think you are? Don't you know that I am one of the 3 leaders from the Wolfheads?" Xavier stepped closer to the light, revealing his face. "That is exactly why I want to kill you." "You? You are Xavier?" Hang was unsure what to say. He did hear that their strongest opponent was a teenager, but he was still taken by surprise. Seeing how young this man in front of him was, he expected a teenager that would fill his heart with dread upon sight, but all he could see was a handsome young man, whose features were still quite soft. "What an honor to have you know my name." Xavier gave Hang a sarcastic smile, before smashing the sword at him like lightning. The attack was fast, and even though Hang was not slow to react, a wound was left on his face. He licked the blood that ran over his lips off, laughing coldly. "You sure are courageous to try and assassinate me all by yourself. I guess I should be happy about this. It will save me a lot of time when I don't have to search for you." He clenched his fists, and Q energy wrapped around them. Xavier was unbothered. He clenched his fist as well, and faint yellow energy appeared. Hang grinned a menacing smile. "Bastard, thinking you can ambush me like this will be the last mistake you will make in your short life." He stood up, keeping his gaze on Xavier as he stepped closer. "Get fucked." Xavier stretched his hands forward. He opened his fist as he aimed at Hang. Following this, a fierce strength emerged from his palms, smashing against Hang's chest. The bloodthirsty look on Hang's face grew stale. His body was flying backwards. He flew for 30 feet before crashing onto the ground. As he stood up, his skin turned pale. "You have some skill, brat, but the Q method I train in has a rocket tribute. There is no way you can break through my powerful defense by relying on talent alone." He tightened his fists. His speed as he came rushing at Xavier increased a lot. The tent was shaking. Calmly facing the incoming force, Xavier moved slightly to the side. The enemy's fist was dodged easily. Like a ghost, Xavier appeared behind Hang. He furrowed his brows before attacking only a second later. Xavier's first attack resulted in something that felt like hitting rock. He tried again. No hit amounted to anything. Hang burst into laughter. "Weren't you listening, kid? I told you I have a rocket tribute. You won't be able to break my defense." With a hard kick, he sent Xavier flying backwards. Xavier made a roll backwards as he landed on the ground to ease the fall. He quickly stood up. "He really is strong." "You fucking brat. You're deluded to oppose our mercenary company. Do you have a death wish?" Hang had a sinister smile on his face. "I don't have time to play with kids, so I'll make sure to end this quickly." Hang spread his hand in front of his chest and bent his legs. White Q energy flashed across his eyes. Xavier noticed that his limbs had become a lot stiffer. The pale muscles on his naked arms vibrated as a ferocious strength began to form within them. "This game is over, kid." Staring at Hang, Xavier realized he had to take things more seriously.
He began to regret his decision to ambush Hang and not sneakily kill him. While Xavier had the chance to do so, he thought he could need the practice of an actual fight. Hang was now in his top form. He stepped off the ground and came rushing at Xavier at full speed. Xavier felt dizzy as Hang's sinister face got closer. His enormous fist aimed at Xavier's head. The intense force caused a sense of fear to overcome Xavier. Not wanting to lose his life, Xavier backed off. Hang laughed. "What? Running away already?" He pounced towards Xavier. "Fucking die!" Hang's fist once more aimed at Xavier's head with a vicious blow. Xavier knew he had only one chance. Xavier's fist blocked off Hang's fist. The strong gust of wind that was created by the two forces shook up a layer of dust from the ground within the large tent. Hang fleshed his teeth. "You dare to block off my attack? Fuck off!" Cruelty flashed across his eyes. All his Q energy flowed through his veins and threatened to burst out. The enormous strength caused Xavier to turn pale. A weak groan escaped him. He staggered backwards to the edge of the tent. "You train a lot, don't you? I did not expect you to withstand a direct attack from me." Hank could not help but be in awe at the strength of the young man in front of him. Xavier gasped for air. "It looks like I need to go all out to defeat you. Otherwise this might be a little difficult." He sighed and removed the heavy broadsword ruler from his back. The heavy broadsword ruler landed on the ground, crushing some smaller rocks that were laying there to dust. Hang's pupils dilated at the sight. His heart skipped a beat. He did not notice the heavy weight this young brat was carrying. Hang thought it was some weird-looking ordinary sword. "Sorry, I was just warming up." Xavier stretched himself. The surging Q energy made him feel as if he was full of new energy. Hang was unable to react as Xavier jumped next to him and whispered into his ear. "This is the end for you." A force smashed against Hang from behind. Hang stomped on the ground, letting out an angry cry. "Octane blast!" Xavier tightened his fist and aimed at Hang. The intense force his fist carried caused a rushing of wind around it. Hang thought he was about to pass out. Xavier's fist hit Hang's back. Faint crack lines appeared on it. Hang laughed. "I told you I have a rock attribute. You won't be able to break my defense." Hang repeated what he told Xavier earlier, annoyed that he asked to repeat himself in the first place. "Are you sure about that?" A smug smile spread across Xavier's face. "Explode!" Hang spit out blood. His internal organs were damaged severely. The rock-hard body collapsed onto the ground. He gasped for air one final time, but his lungs were shredded apart. There was nothing he could do that would have saved his life. Xavier stared at the man losing his life. Once it was done, he turned around and left. Several hours later, with the rising sun, some of the unconscious mercenaries outside opened their eyes. Confusion was among them. Some were embarrassed, trying to figure out why they fell asleep while on duty. The mercenaries who were supposed to be on guard duty especially could feel a sense of fear overcome them. If Hang were to find them sleeping while they were supposed to work, they would risk losing more than their job. As they regained their wits, they looked around. Silence. Something was off. The mercenaries grabbed their weapons and rushed towards the large tent located in the center. "Master Hang!" A mercenary shouted into the tent. There was no reply. Uneasiness crept into their hearts. One of the mercenaries eventually stepped forwards, cutting the drapes that were covering the tent apart. The scene within was revealed to everyone. Hang was lying on the ground, both his eyes lifeless but wide open. An expression of fear was cut into his face, and would remain there eternally. A large pool of blood formed beneath his body, coming from his mouth like a small stream. All the mercenaries who saw this scene were overcome with terror. Some sent silent prayers to the heavens, thanking the gods for still being alive. It did not take long for everyone in the town of Beast to hear about the news. Many people got curious. They wanted to know how things would continue from here. A lot of people mocked the Wolfhead mercenaries. "So many people lost to some teenage kid. What a bunch of losers." "Yeah, I wonder how long Master Ron can continue to act ignorant." The news also spread to a small silent room, where the fairy doctor, dressed in white, was mixing some medicine. As she heard the news, she stopped what she was doing, shaking her head. "I can't believe you were actually going for it. You are truly something else, Xavier. Doctor?
Master Bai wishes to see you. The gentle voice of a female servant echoed from outside the small room. The doctor straightened up. Master Bai oversaw the medicine palace. In the last few days, he had shown up more frequently, after hearing some rumors about her that were spread by the Wolfhead's company. She swallowed, but there was no way to avoid him. As of now, she was working and living in his house after all. Let him in. Not long afterwards, a man dressed in expensive purple clothes walked into the small room. Doctor, it is good to see you. How are you doing? The doctor lifted her eyes to look at the middle-aged man walking up to her. She stood up and poured him and herself a cup of tea. Seated on a chair, Master Bai looked at the doctor in front of him. He tried to hide his ill intent, but failed miserably at it. The doctor pretended not to notice. She was only a guest here, and with the spreading of rumors, she could not afford to make enemies. With gentle hands, she placed the cup on the table in front of her before sitting down. Is there a reason you wanted to see me? Master Bai smiled. Using both hands, he reached for the cup in front of him. He rubbed it slightly before taking a sip. I assume you have heard the news about the young man named Xavier. Everyone did. It's a small town. The doctor took a sip as well. He was with you as you entered the cave to look for treasure, wasn't he? Master Bai's eyes lit up with greed. Master Bai, I think you are mistaken. I did travel with Xavier, but the only time I have come close to him was when he helped me as I almost fell off a cliff while picking herbs. As for finding treasure in a cave, I have to disappoint you. I did not find any treasure, but I did hear that the Wolfhead mercenaries suddenly left us on the way back. I imagine they must have found something. If you are interested in treasure, then maybe you should talk to the leaders of the Wolfheads and ask what they have brought back. The doctor put on a polite smile as she suggested this. Master Bai's smile did not falter. He let out a laugh. It was just a simple question. But since you are so acquainted with Xavier and he saved your life, you should invite him over to the medicine palace if you run into him again. The medicine palace can easily keep up with some brutish mercenaries. You would have a nice stay here. If I run into him, I will let him know. Though I have only met him once so far, so calling him an acquaintance might be a bit of an exaggeration. She went on to keep chatting with Master Bai for a bit before he finally excused himself and left her alone. Watching him walk out of the room, she glanced at the teacup from which Master Bai had taken a few sips. A sinister smile spread across her face for a brief moment. He was acting a lot less persistent than usual, but I am not sure if I can trust him. I hope you won't do anything to make me mad, Master Bai. I may not be strong, but you should not be so careless when you're drinking my tea. His body was placed in the middle of a large hall. Tension spread through it. The terror-filled face on the dead body was the one of the company's third leader, Hang. Everyone in the hall knew immediately what happened. He was murdered by Xavier. Rong was sitting on his chair, gritting his teeth audibly. Explosive anger started to boil in his blood. I will tear that little bastard into a million pieces. Lang swallowed, observing the corpse. He could not believe that the boy whom he had chased all across the mountain range a few months ago had grown so much stronger. Lang was well familiar with Hang, and how strong he was. Even he was afraid of Hang. Lang exchanged some looks with Rong. A mutual expression of bloodlust was on their faces. One could see that they were indeed father and son. That demon must be an 8-star young master by now. Hang possessed a rock attribute and was familiar with 2 more powerful D techniques. He was one of our strongest men. A look of mourning flashed across Rong's face as he spoke. It seemed as if he only now realized that he had lost one of his oldest comrades. Despite his strength, this demon was able to murder him. From tomorrow on, all the members who are at least 5-star young masters will remove their attire and badge, pretending to be independent mercenaries. We will split into teams of 5 men and enter the mountain range. If anyone finds any traces of that demon, immediately use the whistle to call for backup. Meanwhile, Xavier kept training until late at night. Cold moonlight lit up the forest. Then, sitting on a mountaintop, Xavier pulled out a small bottle filled with red liquid. He gripped onto a branch tightly as he opened it and braced himself for the pain. Cold sweat ran down his forehead like a river, as his muscles tensed up with pain as soon as the red liquid dropped onto his skin.
He did not stop until his entire back was covered red. Lau was standing above him, using a knife to spread the liquid all over Xavier. The old man did nothing to ease his pain. Instead, he teased. "Doesn't it feel relaxing?" "Go fuck yourself." Xavier gritted his teeth in agony. Burning pain shot through his body, starting from his back. Lau could only laugh. "Well, you agreed to train with me, didn't you? I have warned you that a world of pain awaits you. How long do you think it will take you until you reach the next level?" Xavier groaned, in pain and annoyance. "How am I supposed to know? I just reached level 6. The last 3 levels of each rank are always the hardest to break through." "You were forgetting that you are running out of time." Lau reminded him gently. "It has been almost 5 months since we started our journey. There is less than a year's time left until you need to meet with the girl Nalan Yan from the faction of the Misty Clouds." Xavier licked over his dry lips. "I did not forget. I will never forget this. But 2 years ago she was already a young master on level 3. I wonder what rank she is on right now. She can't be weaker than me." "I'm afraid so. Although I have many ways to strengthen you, there will be repercussions if you dare to try those secret techniques. I won't allow you to use them, even if this means you might have to face defeat." Lau gave Xavier a fair warning. He was worried that Xavier's ambitious spirit would make him forget to stay reasonable. Xavier laughed. "I don't intend to face defeat. You know how long I have suffered and how far I have come during the past few years. She is the reason why I keep enduring all these hardships and painful training, and you promise that you will help me to catch up with her." Lau shook his head. "You stubborn dumb brat." He stretched his arm out. A cold white flame appeared above the center of his palm. Lau stared at it as it danced around. "I can help you raise your strength. However, I can only do so if you can follow my instructions. I do worry that you have wasted much time playing tag with the mercenaries in the forest." Xavier rolled his eyes. "Oh please, I have seen your strength. You would only need to fart to make all the mercenaries drop dead, but you refuse to be of any help." Lau smacked the back of Xavier's head as he scolded him. "You wanted to train. How can you train if I settle every single problem for you? Do you not want to gain wisdom and experience?" Xavier shrugged. "They keep attacking me. Am I supposed to let them kill me? If they would give up, there would have been no need for so much bloodshed. This is wasted time, but still, I will get rid of them. I have come so far. I can't give up now." Lau's eyes widened in surprise. "You will keep going?" "Always. I have no time to waste. Keep going." Xavier bit into a piece of fabric, gesturing at Lau to keep pouring the burning red liquid onto his back. The next morning, Xavier found himself curled up in a hidden spot within the dense bushes. His focus was on a group of mercenaries nearby. They were walking on the main road into the mountain range. Something about them made Xavier feel worried. There was something off about this group of mercenaries. He kept observing them, watching how they moved. Suddenly, his pupils dilated in realization. He finally understood. The groups of mercenaries were dressed as if they were independent mercenaries that had been gathered at a whim for a mission. Yet as they moved and interacted, one could see that they knew each other. They must have been practicing with each other before. Xavier moved his head slowly. He was dressed in green. Large parts of his clothing were covered with mud and leaves. This way, he looked as if he was part of the forest. No one noticed him. He made sure to stay close by, but not too close, as he continued to investigate. Eventually, his suspicion was confirmed. "Wolfhead mercenaries. I suspected as much, but I can't afford to jump to a conclusion. I don't want to kill someone innocent after all." The group had been observed by Xavier throughout the entire afternoon. There were 5 young masters on level 5. Xavier did not fear them, so deep in the dense forest, he was not worried about any potential other group coming to their rescue in time. Of course, Xavier was not stupid enough to attack immediately. Like a viper stalking its prey, he patiently and quietly waited in the bushes. Finally, the mercenaries stopped to take a break. One of the mercenaries left his companions and walked towards a big tree. Just as he was about to relieve himself, a force pushed against his throat, and everything turned black. Not long afterwards, one of the other mercenaries found him. "A monster is attacking us! A high-leveled monster!" Hearing this shouting, the other mercenaries began to panic. They ended their break and jumped up. Some of them were confused, shaking their heads. A high-level monster? Here? We are in the outer area of the mountain range. How could there be a... Before he was able to finish his sentence, his throat was cut with a dagger. With a swift motion, Xavier jumped around and used vacuum hand to pull in the next mercenary. Another quick movement, and another throat got cut. The mercenary had no time to react as his life was ended. It took the other two mercenaries a moment to regain their senses. The older one kicked his companion, throwing him right at Xavier before heading for the run. On the run, he pulled out a whistle. Before he could blow it, Xavier appeared in front of him. With a ruthless kick against his chest, he flew backwards into the soil. The kick was hard enough to break several of his ribs. He coughed up violently. One of the broken ribs must have pierced through his lung. The old mercenary struggled to gasp for air. Xavier ended his life by smashing the heavy broadsword ruler through his skull. At this exact moment, a sound echoed through the forest. The mercenary that was thrown at Xavier's feet managed in his dying breath to blow the whistle for help. Xavier tensed up. Shit! How is he not dead yet? Without wasting another second, he ran away. The other mercenaries who heard the whistle blew their whistles as well to alert their comrades. Xavier silently cursed. Looks like I was getting too cocky. Catch him! Behind him, a large group of mercenaries began to gather and chase after him. Xavier ran and ran and ran. He was unsure for how long. Suddenly, he saw another group of mercenaries ahead of him. At the front of the group stood a bitter-looking middle-aged man. He walked forwards to Xavier. You fucking bastard! I cannot wait to shred you apart.
The size of the group involved in the chase. Even the independent mercenaries who were hunting for monsters in the mountain range paused their journey and came rushing to the source of the crying and whistling. Hey, isn't that the brat that has been taking down the wolf heads? Wrong fletched his teeth. Cunning was in his eyes. He decided to use a trick to make good use of all the newfound attention from the independent mercenaries. Catch that bastard. He has a high-leveled XXQ method with him. It seemed to work. Greedy looks turned at Xavier. The mercenaries who worked with Wrong before knew of his cunning. Taking the hint, they kept repeating him. Yeah, we need to get the high-leveled XXQ method. He stole it from us. None of the mercenaries were able to resist something of such value. One of them grabbed his sword, chasing Xavier, who jumped around like a young monkey, dodging the attacks as he was running away. The other mercenaries immediately followed. The loud screaming from the mercenaries echoed through Xavier's head. His ears were ringing. Fucking asshole! He kept his focus on his surroundings. One wrong move in the dense forest could break his neck quicker than any of the mercenaries behind him. Quickly, he came up with a plan. He took a sharp turn and dashed towards the area that was known for the large number of monsters living there. Let's see if they can outnumber all the monsters of the mountain range. Xavier gasped for air. With all his remaining stamina, he sped up his pace one last time. Wrong's voice echoed like a lion's roar. You bloody brat, you won't escape me again. I will end your short life. Xavier had no reply to any of those threats. He focused on keeping up his pace as well as he could. His heart was racing too. He could sense something tasting like metal in his mouth. Wrong was furious. His mouth twitched. His small eyes kept staring with anger at the figure ahead of him. Xavier's speed and endurance had exceeded his expectations, but the old man still had a trick up his sleeve. A large amount of Q combat energy suddenly poured from his feet. Wisps of wind formed beneath them. When his feet now stepped onto the ground, Wrong's body shot forward. His speed had almost doubled. Hearing the sound of breaking wind, Xavier turned his head to take a glance backwards. Damn it! Xavier was shocked as he saw Wrong rushing towards him. He lifted a finger and took an energy recovery pill. His Q combat energy gradually came back. The distance between him and Wrong became less. Murderous intent was in his eyes. I will make sure to kill you today. Fuck off! Xavier turned around briefly. He waved his hand, and a shapeless force gushed out of his palm. The force may have been shapeless, but Wrong could feel the wind pressure that now came rushing at him. He coldly laughed and threw a punch forward. Another powerful force from his fist rushed at the other force. As the two forces clashed, A layer of grass was shaved off the ground. Some thinner trees also broke. "You have no power, you bloody brat. No wonder you act so unashamed." Wrong used his D technique again, rushing him forward by another 30 feet in only a second. He was getting dangerously close. Xavier could almost feel him breathing down his neck. "Go fuck yourself," Xavier coughed out. He took another glance at Wrong, who was catching up. The greedy mercenaries were not far behind him. Xavier knew he had no other option left. With both his hands, he removed the heavy broadsword ruler from his back and put it into his storage ring. "I'm done playing." His speed suddenly increased. He flew into the dark, dense forest like a leopard. Wrong's expression changed as Xavier's speed increased. Confusion overcame him, even with his agility D technique, and although he was a master, he was unable to catch up. This was a huge blow to his ego. That brat must have obtained quite a lot from that damned cave. He was wondering what sort of technique allowed him such a boost. Once more, he used his D technique to increase his speed. They ran further and further into the dense forest. The increasing density made the forest darker. It was getting difficult to see where to set foot without tripping over branches. This inevitability slowed Wrong and Xavier down. Suddenly, Wrong sensed something aiming to jump at his throat. Wrong wasted no time. He pulled out his scimitar and cut the monster in half. It was not an ordinary mouse. It was at least 15 feet in size and had bloodshot eyes. They were known as bloodthirsty mice, a low-leveled monster of the mountain range. As Wrong looked ahead, he could see another 20 of these beasts running up to him. He cursed to himself. These monsters were not able to hurt him, but they would have slowed him down quite a bit. The large crowd of mercenaries caught up with him. As they saw the leader of their company being blocked, they all drew their weapon to get rid of the mice. Wrong kicked away another of the mice. "Keep chasing him." The mercenaries did as told, and continued the chase through the forest. Many of the mercenaries could not endure much longer. They dropped out from the crowd. More and more the crowd shrunk in size. By the end of the afternoon, only half the mercenaries were left, namely the 2 wolfheads, and a few independent ones driven by greed. The sun began to set and made place for the moon. Xavier's legs were numb. He raised his head. The moon rose in the sky. It was getting late. His sides were aching. Every breath was burning. The pills he had available were able to make it a bit better, but he did not want to waste all of them on one chase. Xavier did not expect these rough mercenaries to be so persevering. "That crazy brat." Wrong was gasping for air. "It seems as if we are entering the inner region of the mountain range. Why isn't he worried about running into higher-leveled monsters?" The old man's eyes were fixated on Xavier. He was appearing and disappearing in the shadows. Anxiety spread through Wrong's heart. Entering the inner region was suicidal, especially with so many people. For Xavier, it would be easy to hide it out, but for the mercenaries, it was impossible to hide more than 15 people in the forest. One of them is bound to make some sort of noise eventually. Just as he considered withdrawing, the figure in front of him had come to an abrupt halt. Wrong was stunned before he broke into a wide grin. He took one last leap forwards, and now was only a few feet behind Xavier. "It appears the chase is over, unless you wish to hurl yourself into the abyss in front of you." Wrong beamed with joy. He gestured to the mercenaries, and they formed a half-circle around Xavier. He was now enclosed by the mercenaries behind him and the dangerous cliff ahead. Xavier laughed bitterly. He did not expect to end up in front of a cliff again. There were only 2 paths into the inner regions of the mountain range. All the others ended in the abyss. Xavier realized he must have taken a turn and strayed away from the main path. "Now, you bloody brat, do you intend to hand over what you have obtained from the cave, or do I need to take it with force?" A cruel light lit up in Wrong's eyes that was emphasized by the cold moonlight coming from above. "Should I really give it to you?" Xavier turned around and took a good look at the mercenaries. Hearing Xavier, their expressions changed. They exchanged some meaningful looks. None of them wanted Wrong to receive all the treasure. Wrong clearly understood Xavier's intention, to play the mercenaries up against him. "Everyone, I know you all have your doubts about this, but keep in mind that he has murdered dozens of my men. Even Hang, our 3rd leader, has died at his hands. This is something he has to pay for with his life. As for whatever he obtained from the cave, it was originally found by my son,
We only wish to take back what belongs to us. When everything is settled, I will provide all of you with a hefty reward." He looked at the mercenaries around him. Despite their brutish nature, those men were no idiots. They knew Wrong intended to pocket everything for himself. Wrong waved his hand, and all the mercenaries drew their weapons. The mercenaries from the Wolfhead Company glared at the independent ones, and vice versa. Their murderous intentions were visible to everyone. With the Wolfheads outnumbering the independent mercenaries, Wrong's mind was at ease. The independent mercenaries could only withdraw. Then Wrong looked back to Xavier. "If you hand me everything over, your death will be quick and painless." Xavier sighed. He flicked his palm, and the huge heavy broadsword ruler appeared in his hand. "All right, if you have the guts, come and get it."